All right, all right. Well, here we are. Happy Wednesday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you if you're into that. If you are, that's cool. If not, you're not. It's amazing how timely this class actually is because as we're seeing right now, the Federal Reserve is going to be meeting. It might be right now. I don't know. I know that Jerome Powell's going to be meeting today, and they're talking about interest rates going up 0.5%. So if that's the case, what does that mean? Now, I will. Oh, hey, they have met. The Fed raised the point by a half percentage point. That's the biggest hike in 2 decades. And there's probably a lot more stuff. And we'll talk more about that later today. But your clients, your buyers, and your sellers right now are probably saying, oh my God, interest rate just went up 0.5%. Well, the reality is they were talking about short-term interest rates, not long-term. We'll talk more about that later. But my goodness, the market and shifts are happening. So my name is Will Story, if you don't know me. I am a real estate agent. I am out of Keller Williams Realty downtown. And I've worked with the team. Our name is Livian. We're a nationwide team. We're in, I think, like 38 locations at this point in time. We've got 320 agents. We're on track to do about $3 billion in sales this year. So, just a few sales. But, as the market changes, we're going to be ready for it. And I hope you will be too. So I'm going to share my screen really quick for you. So if you have questions at any time, I have a really challenging time watching the chat. That's just how I am as a teacher. So feel free to unmute yourself and be like, hey, Will, what about blah, blah, blah. I love class interaction. So stop me with questions at any time. Sometimes I talk too fast. So if I'm talking too fast, you're like, Will, slow it down. You've obviously had 35 cups of coffee today. I'm happy to slow it down. Just let me know. And then, like I said, just ask questions at any time. Please keep yourself muted. I don't necessarily need to hear you yelling at your cat or something like that, right? So survive in a shifting market, right? Well, you guys, the U.S. housing market has been on this dream run, just going up, right, for so long, and there's been a scarcity of houses to buy, right? That's just the reality, and we shouldn't forget, really, though, how fragile the real estate market is. We're starting to see the scarcity change in leading markets, right? There's certain markets in the U.S. that kind of lead the trend. We are starting to see this. We're starting to see the change happen, right? So it's pretty obvious. So Santa Clara County, California, is one of our leading markets. It's a good leading indicator. 3 weeks ago, there were 650 houses on the market in Santa Clara County. 2 weeks ago, there were 750 houses on the market. 1 week ago, there was 950 houses. So you went from 650 to 950 in 2 weeks. That's crazy. Here's another good one. Naples, Florida. Southern Florida is another leading market, right? In January, there were 75 houses on the market in Naples. 75, that's not that many. Well, to put into perspective, today, as of this morning, it was 938 houses. 75 to 938. That's a big difference, I guess. Another place to look at is Phoenix. Phoenix is a big indicator. Well, the amount of houses for sale today in Phoenix versus 1 week ago has gone up 10%. 10% in 1 week. That's crazy, right? Is this just going to be a minor slowdown? Or do we have a crisis around the corner? What's coming at us, right? I don't know, right? No one really knows. If I had that crystal ball, I'd be on a yacht somewhere, right? So, as of the beginning of 2022, home prices were still rising. Home prices grew slower in 2019, right? At that rate, they were going at about 3.3%. In 2018, they're about 5%. Those are nationwide numbers, right? In 2020 and 2021, they got closer to 20%. In Colorado, it was right at about 20%. So that is a crazy number, right? If your house was worth $500,000 January 1 of 2021, January 1 of 2022 is worth about $600,000. That's just wild, right? It's not sustainable. The average price of a home in the U.S. in 2021 was about $453,000, right? And in the Denver metro area at the end of 2021, it was about $745,000. An average house, not a nice house, an average one, right? They say that Denver's average may hit around $1 million by Memorial Day. $1 million for an average house. I find that just unbelievable, right? Some areas have been hit by sharp upturns, while others have seen more steady flow of increases. It just depends, right? Up is good, but it's important to pay attention to the velocity of that growth. Many experts are predicting rise again this year, right? They're saying that we're still going to go up this year, and it's not going to be close to that 20%. It's going to be a lot closer to about 8%, right? It depends how you look at. I saw a prediction for 14%. I've seen anything from, 6% to about 15%. However, interest rates are growing faster than people anticipated. So with that, I think it's going to be closer to 8%. But hey, I don't know. We'll see what happens, right? I also didn't think COVID was ever going to be a thing. And then we had to live through a pandemic. So that was exciting. So, what do these higher prices mean for sellers, right? Well, the higher the price, the better profit they may have, right? Other options too, if they want to consolidate debt through a refinance or something like that, that's possible. But keep in mind that a lot of buyers are being priced out of the market, especially as interest rates go up. And that could lead to fewer offers for your seller. We're already seeing that. I'd say the weekend that it really first hit in Denver would have been that weekend right before Easter. That's when we started seeing, not 25 offers on a house, but 3 or 4, which, hey, that's not so bad. 3 or 4 offers, pretty good, right? So what should we do to help our sellers, right? Well, we need to set expectations. They need to be aware of the competition. They need to understand what is going on in the market so that they can be prepared for it, right? With less offers going around, sellers really now need to make sure that their house stands out from the similar ones in the area, right? As there's more options, buyers can be choosier, right? And if interest rates continue to go up, buyers are going to be less motivated, so you have less of a demand, right? So not only will you have more houses for sale, but less demand, that's not necessarily good, right? And as long as interest rates do continue to increase like they have been, then we're gonna have to plan on houses taking longer to sell. The day of selling in 3 or 4 days may be going away, right? A mortgage is a big commitment, and adding a higher interest rate to the mix, it's going to make buyers slow down and pause, right? A lot of buyers are going to say, I can't make it work anymore, right? So buyers need to take note too. Like, what is their goal in buying a home? If it's to own a house for 2 years and sell, or is it to own a house for 10 years plus? 2 years right now is extremely risky because maybe the market is down. 10 years is more safe. In Colorado, it took 6 years after 2008 for equity to be restored into houses. What I mean by that, 6 years before houses were worth what they had been worth back prior to the crash in 08. Now, 12 years after that, or 12 years after 08, the home prices had nearly doubled, right? So if you're looking at a 2-year buy, maybe it's not a good time to buy. If you're looking at 6 or 10 years plus, it's got to be a great time to buy because we saw nationwide, most equity was earned back into houses within that 10-year period. So if you're going to buy a new home in this elevated market, make sure that you know what you can afford, right? Encourage your buyer to commit to staying within their budget amount because there's what you're approved to, and then there's like what you actually can afford that you're comfortable with. No one wants to be house poor living, with cardboard boxes and stuff like that, right? Don't let your buyer rush into a home purchase. It doesn't make financial sense for them, right? Even if they love the home, because later, who are they going to blame? Themselves or somebody else? I don't know about you guys, but I like to blame them, not, oh, I hate blaming me. That's the worst, right? So make sure as you're looking at things, have them expand their search, right? Change their parameters a little bit because maybe going over one neighborhood, they're able to find a gem, something different, something much better than they could have in that more desirable neighborhood, right? You can always change your expectations, but you can't always change your price point. So if you subtly change your expectations, hopefully at that point, you can get a better deal, right? And that's why working with a real estate agent who really knows the area is the best, right? When you have a local agent, they might say, hey, I know this neighborhood's awesome. And the one in the middle, you don't really like, but hey, the one over here is actually awesome too, right? So that's why having that local expert is huge. Now, if they really want to be like sensitive about things, they might want to go with, a 15-year mortgage or something like that. That'll get them a lower mortgage rate. It'd be a slightly higher payment, but it just depends on what their goals are. So here's the overview for our course today. We're going to talk about what a shift is, right? We've all heard this word shift, and no, I'm not saying the other S word, it's shift, right? That dirty word. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about financial cycles, the law of equilibrium, right? What does that look like? What does it mean? What actually causes a shift, right? I mean, is there one cause, a lot of causes? I don't know. What you can do as an agent, like how do we overcome this as an agent? Because that's probably the most important thing for us or the people on this call, right? 4 strategies to overcome a buyer reluctance. Some buyers say, I don't know, I want to wait and see what happens. Well, how do we overcome that, right? Because I don't know you guys, I got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I got bills. I'm sure y'all do, right? I got this girl on my team, she's got like 25 cats, and she's going to need to know how to overcome buyer reluctance, right? How how you can bulletproof your transaction. That is super, super important. Our core competencies in business and how we address them. And then how do you, shift your talent, like the people that work with you, how do you shift them and get them into the right mindset? So what exactly is a shift, right? Well, I can tell you, a shift, it occurs when supply and demand are out of balance. And the reality is they're always out of balance pretty much, right? So a buyer's market is essentially when you have 7 months of inventory or more, right? A balanced market was you have about 5 to 7 or really 6 months of inventory. Another way of looking at it is 6 houses for every 1 buyer in the market. A seller's market is when you have less than 6 months or 5 months or less of inventory, right? As a real estate professional, we always want to be in a balanced market. We're like, oh God, this market's so hard. Oh God, this market's so hard, right? We're never content with the market we're in, right? Well, a balanced market happens for this long. That's it, right? That pendulum, it swings. And by the time it gets that 6-month mark, it swings fast. And we're already starting to see it, right? It never lasts very long, that balanced market. And when you think you're in a balanced market, you're really not. And at that point in time, it's just too late, right? So, oops. So where are we, right? In 2022, like where are we going, right? Well, one thing is for sure, real estate and what go, in real estate, not just real estate, but everything, right? Like what goes up comes down. Is that right? So it'll always go up and go back down over time. There's hills and valleys, right? We go up and down, up and down. But what we know this is over time, real estate on average has grown about 4%, right? So over time, real estate has actually been a great investment. However, it has its ups and downs. So keep this in mind too. There can be big differences in geographic regions. Like a boom in California could also have a bust in like Detroit, right? Or even within the same city, the numbers can vary widely. Like for example, here in Colorado, in Boulder County, I don't believe the market's going to go down at all. And I don't know if I believe any of the market will go down, but definitely not in Boulder County. The reason I believe that is unfortunately, on New Year's Eve last year, Boulder County lost 1,000 houses due to a fire, right? So they lost a lot of houses. So the lack of houses got even worse. So I don't see Boulder County going down, right? Also, keep this in mind, areas with new growth and gentrification, they can show significant price appreciation, while other areas can go down or be more flat. I mean, like look at if you're in the Denver metro area, what happened in Rhino or Sunnyside, right? Those are gentrified neighborhoods, right? We saw prices shoot up there. I mean, like just shoot up. We look at a more established neighborhood like Highlands Ranch, and they went up, but they didn't go up the same rate as Sunnyside and Berkeley or Rhino, right? There's a huge difference geographically. And we're talking just, 20 miles apart, 15 miles apart. When you look at national regional statistics, be sure to account for the reality of the market in your local area. Like I said, rising prices one place may not help you in your area. So be a student of information, and know like when someone's like, well, the market's awesome, but it's not awesome where you are, be able to explain that, right? So, different financial cycles, this is nothing new, right? We've had this going on for hundreds of years. Probably like the biggest one that was well documented in, I'd say early history, or I don't know what you call it, was in the 1600s. They had the Dutch tulip mania. And I don't know a ton about that, but goodness, there was all this stuff going on with tulips and all this speculation, right? Well, nowadays we have these digital currencies like Bitcoin. You see Bitcoin go woo, and then come back down woo, right? We see it all. We see these cycles. So real estate has cycles as well, right? Now we have a few different cycles, right? And the cause and effects can be different, right? We have bigger cycles like we saw in 08, that was a down cycle, right? But we also have other cycles that are more, seasonality as well, right? So you need to have a clearer picture of what's happening in the present. And you don't want to say crazy things like, oh my God, the market's crashing and we're never going to recover, right? You don't want to be that alarmist, right? You don't also want to be the person that says, the market's crazy hot and the only place it can go is up. So we know that's not true either, right? So you need to make sure, there's nothing guaranteed in real estate except that it's going to go up and down. Over time, I believe it is almost guaranteed that it's going to continue to rise at roughly 4% like we've seen historically. But in the ups and downs, they will occur. Going back thousands or even tens of thousands of years, humans have tried to predict the future, right? From oracles to priests and so-called experts of every kind, right? Even today, modern experts, they forecast, you see their forecasts in the media and all that. No one has the ability to really predict exactly what will happen, not with perfect accuracy, They really don't, right? We can remember the mistakes of the past, right? Who predicted 2008? Not a lot of people, right? And if more people had predicted it, maybe we'd have avoided it, right? So we have to be careful about all the cycles and knowing what's happening, right? So you got to know what's going on, right? As a real estate agent, you are the expert. You need to know, right? So you know what happened in the past, like know your history. Shift happens, right? Fluctuations are going to continue to happen. They are a given. So prepare and accept them. All systems tend to balance though, or push towards balance. So when you're super high, eventually it'll shoot over and go low, and a low will pass and it'll become a more fruitful period, right? So with that, individuals need to understand a shift, or that understand it or have experienced one. They know that things will change, right? But they also have this. There's two tests. One is to survive. You've got to be able to survive the shift. And then once you're in survival and you've gotten your foot under your feet, you need to learn how to thrive, right? And the ones that hang in tough and long enough, you know, they actually have the ability to thrive. So as we go through the law of equilibrium, that's when we get to opportunity time. So consumer confidence plays an enormous role in financial and real estate markets. Unfortunately, it can be very challenging to determine the point at which a rational confidence shifts into irrational excitement, right? But when irrational excitement abruptly shifts into fear, a stampede will follow, right? People will run fast. So, you know, they'll say, I must sell now. Or when confidence is up, I must buy tons of properties. The reality is, guys, the news is lagging. I was watching the news this morning, the local news, and they were talking about real estate market's still strong. By the time it hits the news, the shift has already started, and it already has, at least in Denver Metro and a lot of other places. So you need to be setting those expectations now, right? The law of equilibrium. Okay, so the law states that the available income in a market determines the number of agents in the market. As the number of transactions rise, so does the number of agents. Conversely, when the number of available transactions falls, so does the number of agents. People are attracted to the industry by the perceived income opportunity driven out by the reality of the competition for it. Man, that's a lot of words. Let's think about it this way. There's a pie, right? There's a pie is called amount of home sales. So in 2010, there weren't a lot of home sales. That pie was pretty small, but a lot of agents had gotten out of the business. 2021 was the record number of sales ever in real estate. There's about 6.5 million sales, which really means, think about every sale has a buyer and a seller. So really about 13 million sides of a transaction. That's a big pie. But also as the pie gets bigger, more agents become real estate agents. So as the pie shrinks, agents get out. As the pie gets bigger, AKA the amount of houses selling gets bigger, there's more agents, right? So keep that in mind. What causes a shift, right? Well, there's a number of reasons. So here's a bunch of different reasons. There's some that I'm going to spend a little bit more time on because I think that they're having a bigger impact on us than others. I'm more than happy though to answer questions on any of them. So inflation, that's the one I want to spend a little bit of time on. I'm sure we all have heard about this inflation thing. It's pretty awesome, right? So think about it this way. I bought a house February of 2021, right? So a little over a year ago. My interest rate on my house is 2.25%. Well, the inflation rate that they released in April was roughly 8.5%. So my interest rate's down here at 2.25. The overall interest rate's at 8.5. So basically every month, the bank is losing about 6% on me. The reason is the value of money is going down and my interest rate's way down here below it. So they're losing about 6%. Every time I give them $1, instead of them getting $1, they're getting more like 94 cents. Okay. So they're losing money on me every month. So inflation, if it's where it is right now, 8.5%, the current interest rate on a house is about 5.5%. They're losing 3% every day on those loans. Now, also lenders know this. It's not a 1 day or a 2 or a day or even a 1 year loan. It's a 30-year loan, right? So at a 30-year loan, they know that inflation will go up and down and whatever. So they know, well, they hope, we all hope, it doesn't hold at 8.5%. So they believe it'll go back down to a more normal level. The target for inflation is usually around 2%. So at 5%, they're making roughly 3% is what they're actually netting, right? So right now in my house, they're losing 6%. All these 5.5% interest rate homes that are going on currently, they're losing about 3%, right? So that's one reason that we're going to see interest rates go up. And as interest rates go up, that'll help cause a shift. The other thing about inflation is it's attacking people's pocketbooks. So I'm going to jump down to, if you look at one of the ideas on here is household income. So sticking with inflation and household income. Inflation's about 8.5%. Income in America went up about 5% last year. So man, I'm making 5% more money. But if everything cost me 8.5% more, my income didn't keep up. I'm actually losing money. So even though I'm making more money, I have the pleasure of paying more taxes. My money when I go to the grocery store doesn't go as far. So household income has gone up. So normally it's household income goes down, helps causes a shift. Well, the income's gone up, but it hasn't gone up enough, right? So keep that in mind as well when you're thinking about inflation. Now, population, right? Is the population getting bigger or smaller? Well, keep that. What does that look like? Well, it depends. So states like New York, Illinois, they are losing population, right? They're moving to lower cost states like Texas, Florida, Alabama, right? Their population is growing. If your population goes up, well, you need more houses. So that can affect prices. If your population goes down, that can affect it. Now in Colorado, we've been very fortunate. Our population's been going up, 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 up. And I don't know if it's because of the marijuana or what. Maybe it's the mile high atmosphere we have. I don't know. I think it's because it's a beautiful state. I came here in 2003 before marijuana was legal, right? But we've seen our population go up. However, 2021, Colorado, from the data they have, it's kind of preliminary right now, it looks like Colorado population went down. So that might be an issue for Colorado, right? We've had a great ride in terms of our prices going up. We've actually in Colorado outpaced the national average of growth in housing prices. We've also had a faster growing population. So if we see our population starting to decline, that can help cause a shift, right? Now, employment, it's good. I mean, I think employment's like unemployment's like 3.5%. That's good. But what they don't talk about very often is the amount of people in the workforce. There's a lot of people not working. They call it job participation rate. It's not as high as it could be. So keep that in mind. If people aren't working, I don't know. Does that help or hurt? Probably hurts because people that aren't working can't get home loans. The political environment, oh God, I don't want to get too political, but I mean, it's like the friendliest environment ever, right? No, not at all, right? So our political environment, I mean, it's bad. It's scary to even sit down with someone that that doesn't have your political interest in their heart to even have that conversation. So we're at a very, very tense time in our political environment. So with that can cause a shift as well. All right, household income, we talked about that. Neighborhood dynamics, that really comes down to gentrification and stuff like that. We kind of hit on that as well. Housing prices. All right, so let's talk about housing prices. So I never think about this, and I kind of do, but my whole thing is not how much does my house cost, right? I bought 2 houses last year. I didn't think about how much they cost. I thought about what's my monthly payment? That's all I thought about, right? That's what the lender thinks about. They don't really care about the cost of the overall house, but how does it factor into your debt to income ratio? So with that, housing prices could go up at the rate that they have because money has been so cheap to borrow. Interest rates have been so low. Well, that's changing, guys. If you haven't noticed, the interest rates have gone up just a tad, right? I bought a house for 2.25% 15 months ago, and now we're at least 5.5%. My guess is today they might have gone over 6%. I haven't kept up on the news yet, but we'll see. So what does that mean, right? That's not good. If housing prices can't continue to go up, do they go down? Do they go down or do they stay flat? I don't know. I don't think they're going to go down. I think we'll just see instead of, 20% appreciation, maybe something more healthy like, the historical number, 4%. I'm going to jump back to interest rates because that is a big one, right? Interest rates are what really have been doing it. I heard this great quote the other day and I love it. and so I'm stealing it. It's my own now. No, my friend Cody Gibson said it. And what it is the interest rate will not dictate whether you win or lose. The interest rate will dictate how you must play in the market to win, right? So we have to just change our game. We have to change exactly how we're playing this sport, right? So here's the reality of the interest rate. There's a secondary market for mortgages. When somebody is not buying, or when someone's buying a house, their lender is going to help them buy the house. But most of the time, that lender is going to take that mortgage and sell it to somebody else in the secondary market. To make a really short and simple way of looking at it, when COVID hit, the US government wanted to help keep everything going, right? Keep the economy going, right? That was the goal. So they started buying mortgages on the secondary market, essentially, right? And by them, I mean the Federal Reserve was doing that. So they bought roughly $800 billion in mortgages. 800 billion with a B. That's almost $1 trillion, guys. So they bought that. They stopped buying them. In November, they said, we're not going to buy them really as much. So they're buying $40 billion a month. They started lowering the amount that they're buying every month. In March, they stopped buying them completely. So one of the biggest buyers of mortgages on the secondary market went away. So the risk of a mortgage went up, because for a lender to say, well, I can just sell it to old Uncle Sam, it's going to be fine. I can do a riskier mortgage. Uncle Sam will buy it. Well, Uncle Sam stopped buying mortgages. Now, here's the next factor that if this was said today, and I don't know what was said at the Federal Reserve meeting yet, I'm going to spend some time reading about it today, is if the federal government said, we're now going to start getting rid of the 800 billion that we have. We're going to sell off the $800 billion in mortgages that we have. If that happens, what do you think is going to happen to interest rates? So instead of just not having a buyer for them on the secondary market, but now we have a flood of them on the market, they're going to go up. So if you hear in the news today or tomorrow or the next day that the federal government is going to start selling their balance sheet or the mortgages that they have, I will bet you, anyone on here, you can pay me, or I'll bet you whatever amount of money you want, $100, $500, $10,000. I will bet you that by the end of the year, we're at 10% mortgage. 10%, that's what I think, but we'll see, okay? So when we look at the market now in 2022, and we look at the history and where it's taken us in the past, we see the rates, we see it all slowing, right? So just think, where's it gonna go? Well, what goes up must come down, right? We know that, that's just a fact, right? So that's what happens there, right? And so with that in mind, the good news is what is down won't stay down forever, right? I mean, we were down hard in 2010. Hey, how much higher are houses today, right? It's insane. The big question we must ask ourselves is, why in the world do we act surprised when the market changes? Our profession has learned to live with the regular seasonal shifts. I mean, in Colorado, the market has a natural seasonality about June 1st. So get ready, guys, in Colorado. This is not the only shift. We're going to get compounded in about 20 to 30 days as we have our seasonality shift too, right? So we have our seasonality shifts, right? And when it happens, a good agent understands how to survive and thrive even in the shifts of the seasonality, and a good agent can in a big shifting market, right? So what can you do as an agent, right? If the market's going to shift, how do you survive? I don't know about you guys, but my 2-year-old, my 4-year-old, they need new stuff and new food every day. So how can I survive, right? What does that look like? Well, when a market shifts, what can we do? There's a few different things, right? Well, there's only one thing to do. And here's the biggest thing, guys. Shift with it, both mentally and action. Like that quote says, the interest rate, it'll dictate how we must play, how we act, right? To win in the market, right? So we got to shift with it, right? So keep that in mind. So success is never about the chosen few, but always about the few who choose, right? Keep that in mind. You can't, so if you choose to shift, if you choose to learn about short sales, if you choose to go with the market, you'll do okay, promise you, right? You can't control the market, but you can control your reaction to it. You don't have to go into a depressive mode. You have to say, hey, this is fantastic. I love this market, right? Because I've loved the market the whole time, because whether I love it or hate it, it's still going to be there, right? So just go with it. Why fight it, right? So why get upset when it's raining? It's still going to rain, right? Always be prepared for the low tide, right? So, with that, keep your expenses low, right? Be ready for this, right? ask yourself what must be done and what needs to be done right now, right? What's our priority right now? Remember that what worked yesterday probably won't work today, and it won't work tomorrow, right? So, if you've been trying to do short sales the last 5 years, it probably didn't work too well because of the equity positions on people, right? But maybe it'll work soon. Maybe, I don't know. And then top agents, they become top agents by mastering the fundamentals, right? When business is tight, you're gonna be able to see who the top agents are out there because they'll succeed and the other ones won't. Do you actually know how to sell a house? Do you actually know how to set up a house for success? Do you actually know how to help a buyer the right way? Like, did you take a listing and you put a sign in the yard and you said a prayer and put it in MLS and it sold? Well, whoop-de-doo. I see these Facebook posts and it says on there, we had 1,000 showings. We had 100 offers. And my seller got 150,000 over asking. I'm like, whoop-de-doo. That's the market. That's not you. Now, when I see someone say, I took my buyer out and they're a really weak buyer and we got under contract on day one, that's a good agent, right? So keep that in mind. So the basics are never outdated, right? There's a reason they call them the basics. They're there, they're important, right? So the first thing, guys, remargin your business, right? Expense management, and maybe not just your business, but your house too. I don't know about you guys, but I like to play this game. I play it about, I don't know, every 3 months. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but I play it. I take my debit card, right? I don't know if you guys have a debit card, a credit card, something, and I lose my card, right? That's what I do. And what it causes to happen is Chase Bank sends me another card. I'm like, oh, thanks, Chase. And then I start getting these emails. Your payment was declined. Your payment was declined. Your payment was declined. And I'm like, I love it. I love it. I'm like, oh my God, I had 2 Netflix accounts. I had 2 of this. I had 2 of that. I didn't even know that I had an account to whatever, Redbox, or shit, my Blockbuster account is still charging me money, even though I thought Blockbuster went broke, right? So you start getting these emails of what you're paying for that you didn't even realize. So lose your debit card every 3 to 4 months. That's my recommendation there. And yeah, it stinks. You have to go re-put it in all the apps and stuff. But oh my God, you know how much harder it is to buy something on Amazon when you're like, I want to buy it. And then you're like, oh, my credit card's not in there. And it's like all the way like 7 feet that way. And I don't want to walk over there. Yeah, lose your card. Lose your card. So that's just a tip for you guys, but do whatever you want on that. But remargin your business, right? Look at your expense management, right? The number one determinant of a thriving lead generation, right? If you have if you have thriving lead generation, you'll be good, but not necessarily. You may not survive because expense management is a close number one on that as well. That to me is the bigger determinant, because if your lead generation costs you $10,000 a month, well, you're only bringing in $9,000 a month in commission, you're going negative $1,000 every month, right? So you got to be very careful with expenses, right? Always work from a position of profitability. That is so big, right? There's a book I love. It's called Profit First. And then there's a whole subtitle too, but Profit First, it's incredible. If you plan for profit, you'll have profit. If you plan for hoping to have profit, you might have profit. Who knows, right? So always do that. And in up markets, we tend to acquire habits. We just start spending money, guys. I mean, like, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm really good at lighting money on fire. I can have like a big pile, just go whoosh, light it on fire, right? So when you're selling a lot of houses, when the market's healthy, you're like, well, hell, of course I'll just light that pile of money on fire. I won't think about it at all, right? Today I was looking at taking on an expense of $350 a month. That's not that much money, right? It's like $4,000 a year. It's not so bad. I reached out to about 40 people that I know very well that do very well in this industry. And I said, hey, would you do this? And I got their feedback before spending $350 a month. I mean, $350 a month, that's like going to Starbucks like 10 times, right? It's not that much money, right? So keep that in mind. Be very careful. So when a shift hits, initially, not everyone gets hit equally, like in the beginning, like we all kind of feel it. But those that have positioned themselves to survive, they're going to be the ones that cut fast. They're going to cut expenses, and they're going to know the shift is there before everyone else. Like I can tell you guys, it's here already. If you don't know it, it is here, right? And so they're going to cut their money. They're going to cut more. Then when you lead from a position of profit, your world is full of possibilities, and you'll be able to do more with less. Okay. A market shift can be an opportunity to evaluate, upgrade, and top grade your business. Think about it, right? I mean, if you have to do more with less money, you can upgrade, you can top grade. It's amazing. So if you want, to stay ahead, then play like you're from behind. I never want to feel like I'm so good, because once I feel good, I get complacent, right? No, every time I want to feel like I'm losing, so that just keeps pushing me, right? So your goal should be to generate leads at the highest possible level with the least amount of resources, right? By resource, I mean money and time. Those are your two biggest resources, money and time, right? And also your people, right? Their time, right? So if you know what needs to be done and when it must be done, it's left with who and how, right? What people and systems do you need? Well, the people that you're in business with, I mean, that's like the most important thing. I am so blessed. I work with this woman named Corey, and without Corey, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I'm not very smart, but Corey's awesome, right? So, with people, are you maximizing your own productivity, right? You lead by self-leadership. You lead yourself first, and then everyone else follows, right? So you doing what matters the most, right? The challenge in a shift is that in order to do more with less, you must make sure that the less can do more. Be careful. Others on your team will rarely make a leap and a shift on their own. They need to be led through the change. They need to see that you're doing it, right? And you might have to top grade some people. You might have someone on your team that you're like, well, that person was getting lucky and now they're not so lucky because business is not just falling into their lap, right? So top grade the people, upgrade your systems as well, and ask yourself how you can execute every task with less effort, less expense, and still maintain high effectiveness. Everything must be extremely purposeful and streamlined, right? And in the end, you must decide, how much you want to succeed and how much you're willing to do to make it happen, right? How much you are willing to do, right? Because that's going to make the big difference. I mean, I don't know. I know people that lead a life and no judgment. They make $50,000 a year and they're very happy. $75,000 a year and they're happy. And there's been like studies that have been done. If you make about 80,000 a year, after that, there's no more real happiness and money, right? You're as happy and content as you can be there. In fact, third world countries, generally the people are happier than they are in America. How crazy is that, right? So how much do you want it? Because if you don't want it, if you're content at 50K, that's cool, no judgment. But if you want 250, if you want 500,000, how much are you willing to do to make that happen, right? So you got to find the motivated, right? That is a challenge right there, right? You can't. So when it's time for a shift, your lead generation activities, they need to shift in the highest gear possible. If it's to be, it's up to me. I heard that first from a guy years ago named Aaron Hurd, and I love that quote. If it's to be, it's up to me. I chant that sometimes, and it just fucking pumps me up, right? If it's to be, it's up to me. So, you need leads coming straight to you, right? In order to be successful, you must master the specific meaning, full scripts and dialogues and the skills of lead generation, right? Do you know what to say to people to make it happen, or do you not know what to say, right? That makes a big difference. Stop doing what doesn't work and figure out what does work and double down on it, right? Ramp that up. Do you like to fish? I always watch people fishing. I'm like, do they like to fish or are they just drinking beer? I don't know what they're doing, right? So do you like to fish, or more importantly, do you like to catch fish? There's a difference, right? I see people just sitting there with, you see them at the end of the day, like, what'd you do? Like, I don't know, I caught one, right? They weren't fishing, they were drinking beer. But the ones that come back with 10 or 15, they're fishing, right? So the key to success is in setting appointments. It boils down to two things. You have to know what to say and then know what to do, okay? Go after clients that others don't want, right? I don't know about you guys, but I got into real estate. I'm like, I'm going to work with the millionaires. It's going to be awesome, right? I want the $2 million listing. Well, I found that that's not always the best approach. Until you land a whale, something I can do, $2 million purchase, represent the buyers that are looking for more modest dwellings, right? You may have to hustle a little bit more. You might have to sell more houses because all the commissions might be smaller, but just think about it. You'll be able to do more deals. So with that in mind, take your efforts and 10X them. Do whatever it takes, whatever you normally do, so you can do more with less, okay? I like this one, practicing card tricks. This is something that, my ex always hated. We'd be out to dinner and I'd just give my card out to the server, right? So what I mean by that is, and practicing card tricks is give your business cards out, right, to people. And you might say, why? I don't know. I throw business cards away, right? Whatever, give them out because not everyone does, right? So it's a good way for them to remember your face and your name, because us real estate agents put our faces on our cards for whatever reason we do. But they'll have it easily accessible, right? The real advantage of handing out a card, it's not that they're going to have the card. It's when you're sitting there, pulling it out of your wallet and you're like, blah, 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 blah. You get to talk to them. It's that interaction that's happening before the card hits their hand, right? So I don't know about you guys, but I've met people in the weirdest spots, you know? So that's the big thing, is give it to people. Don't have a cheap card, have a nice card, right? I was in the Costa Rica rainforest. I was in Manuel Antonio, and I met a man there, and I had a card, and I gave it to him. His name's Lance. About 2 years later, Lance came to Colorado, took me and my ex out to dinner, and bought a house from me. Crazy, huh? And he was from Houston. He wasn't even from Colorado. So he ended up moving to Colorado. It was the most wild thing. Had I not had a card for Lance, it wouldn't have happened, right? I'll tell you this, I love this too. There's an agent I know in Indianapolis. He always gives out 2 cards. He tells the person he gives it to, this one's for you, and the other one is for someone else that could use my services, right? Make it a game. Like when you go to a restaurant and they give you good service, like, hey, you know, if I could ever help you in the way that you helped me, here's my card. You guys, this is not a lie. This is a real true story. I was in traffic court, and the guy said to me at the end, I walked over to I won, by the way, and I walked over to the DA. I said, hey, if I could ever help you the way you helped me, I'd love to help you out. And I gave the DA my card. So you guys might think I'm crazy, but I really did that. Always stay in touch, right? When things are rosy, you know, and things are good, we don't have enough time to talk to us, right? We're too busy to catch up with old clients. Well, you need to reach out to old clients, right? One of the best ways to cushion the ups and the downs of the market is to nurture your network, right? To really foster those relationships, right? Set aside time to reach out to these people, to your sphere. They matter, they love you, they care about you, right? Even if you're not planning to sell, if they're not gonna like sell right now, well, maybe they will one day. And if they aren't, they may know somebody, right? Referrals are great. So be strategic about those phone calls. Don't just call and say, you want to sell? Do you know anyone who wants to sell? Do you want to sell? No, they're going to hate you for that, right? Share news of what's going on in the neighborhood. Offer, you know, like, I like a service called Boomerang where I'll mail them like freebies and stuff, but be of strategic help to them, right? The point is to reach out and be of value. One thing that I love to do, like my favorite tactic, is called the 5 by 5 by 5. What it is I'll call 5 of my people from my sphere today, 1 month later, and I'll talk to them. And I may not even ask for a referral. Just I'll ask them, how's the family? How's the occupation? How's your recreation? And how are your dreams? That's called FORD. Right? It's an acronym, right? Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And I'll ask them about that. And then a month later, I'll go on their Facebook or whatever social media I'm using, and I'll see like maybe they went on a trip or maybe they went golfing, right? I'll say, hey, John, looks like you had a fun time golfing. We should head out to the links soon and go golfing too, right? So it's not just a like. A like doesn't mean anything. It's a comment as well. And then the next month, the last 5 of the 5 by 5 by 5, we're going to shoot them a text. Hey, John, I was driving around your house showing houses, and I thought about you. I hope you and your wife are doing great. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just reminding him. Oh, yeah, and I put in there showing houses. Why did I say that? Don't forget I'm a real estate agent, John. So keep that in mind, right? You want to stay in touch with these people. Now, there's 4 strategies to overcome what we call buyer reluctance. You guys get ready for this. If you haven't already had it, wait, I want to wait, right? I want to wait and see what happens. Well, why wait, right? There are hazards of timing the market. Like I don't know about you guys. If I could time the market just right, I'd be loaded. All of us would, right? What it really comes down to is their goal in buying a house, guys. The US market in the last 80 years has dropped 2 times. 2 times. Now, areas of the US have dropped, but the overall US average 2 times. In Colorado in 80 years, it's been 3 times. I don't think the market's going to necessarily drop. Now, some people might say, Will, I want to wait, see what happens. Well, go ahead and buy a house. Now, if their goal is to buy a house and sell it in 2 years, maybe it doesn't make sense. But if they're normal and they're going to live in it for 7, 10, 20 years, why wouldn't they do it? And they say, well, the interest rates are too high. Guys, the rates will probably peak out at 10 or 11% towards the end of this year, sometime next spring. And then we're going to go into a recession. It's already started, the recession. We just had negative GDP growth last month. So with that, we will see where the market actually, to make it get better as we go into recession, what will they do? They'll push the interest rate back down because not a lot of people will be buying houses. So when that happens, the people that are buying at 8, 9, 10%, they'll be able to refinance down to 5%, but they'll live in the house for 2 years. If the market doesn't go negative, even if it just goes up, 3% a year, well, 2 years from now, it's 3%, another 3%. They didn't miss out on that equity, right? And they've got to live in the house they wanted to live in, customize it the way they want. Other strategies, though, is look at the trade up, right? If I want to go from my small condo to a house, it's a great time to make that trade up because there's more opportunity to buy that bigger house. Now you might say, well, my condo will sell for less. That's if you sell it. What if you turn it into a rental, right? Less is more. What I mean by less is more is, you can get more focused when inventory is gone. You can find the house that checks all the boxes. I know lately we've said, heck, it's got a roof and a toilet, we'll buy it, right? That's what the market's been. Well, now you can be able to check more boxes, right? You can also, find the best buys out there. There's a lot more opportunity to be able to take advantage of. And then, taking the open house beyond the basics. What I mean by that for you guys is really going big with them. Instead of just doing an open house and maybe like putting one sign out and seeing what happens, instead of that, when I do an open house, I call the neighborhood before. I invite them. Why? Because those are the people I'm inviting, the neighbors, that are future sellers, right? I also put up about 30 signs because I want the people that didn't get this house sent to them by a real estate agent. I want the ones that are just driving around like, what do you think, honey? Oh, let's go look at that open house. And they just come on in, right? I love them. They're called unrepresented buyers. They're my favorite. Also, I like to door knock at least 50 houses before the open house. All those neighbors are future sellers. That's how I look at all of them, right? The last thing I'd say is master the market of the moment, right? Short sales, foreclosures. You might say there's no way in heck that's going to happen. Well, we have a house under contract right now that is almost a short sale, right? And you might say, how is that possible, right? So you need to understand how these work. If you haven't been in the business for very long, you've never done a short sale or foreclosure, is my guess. So a market shift can be the moment of truth for your career. So if you're thinking it's not going to happen, I think it could happen. Everyone that's VA, not everyone, but a lot of VA buyers, they actually go into a house and they're already underwater. They finance it to where they're about $20,000 underwater. That's because they finance what's called a funding fee into the loan. So those people can be underwater. Or have you heard of the people doing like $100,000 appraisal gaps? Could they be underwater? Maybe. So what are you going to do to learn about those? Are you going to take a class on short sales, a class on foreclosures? Are you going to build a relationship with people that manage REOs? What are you going to do? So guys, what we'll also see over time is we're going to see it get harder to hold a deal together. Yeah. So I like to say, let's bulletproof our transactions. How do we bulletproof them? Well, there's a few areas that our deals blow apart, right? And so like with this, when it comes to inspections and repairs, set the proper expectation with your buyer and your seller, right? If the buyer's like, man, the carpet's gross, but I'll get them on inspection. No, guys, carpet is on purchase price, right? It's cosmetic. If the seller's like, my furnace is 75 years old, but it still works, so tell them, it's probably not going to cut it, right? Unless their house is priced according, right? Appraisals. Make sure you're giving the appraiser relevant information up front. Do not wait until afterwards, right? Once they've given you their number, it's usually too late. With loan and approval and funding, make sure you have a great lender, right? Make sure your buyer's 100% ready. When you're on the listing side and they send it over, I like to call the lender and say, hey, thanks so much. How good is the loan? They always say the loan's really good. They're like, oh my God, it's so good. However, I don't know. I find that they're not always right about that. So I like to say, if it's so good, how fast can you close it? And at least in the state of Colorado, if they can get it closed in 24 days or less, yeah, it's probably a good loan. If they need more than 24 days, they probably haven't learned too much. Other contingencies, that'd be having to sell your house or something like that. Just limit it. Your co-op agent, right? If they don't have really good experience, maybe they get to the finish line, maybe they don't. Are they gonna be able to coach their client through a weird inspection? Who knows? And deadlines, keep them short, right? You don't wanna have very long deadlines. Because mindset's everything, right? Are you gonna view the market as half full? Because I think you should, right? So when the market is bad, you gotta be aware that it's not necessarily a bad thing for you, right? How fun has the market been the last few years? I don't know, the market's been really awesome last year, right? It's been super fun. I've never realized I could write so many amazing offers that would be rejected, right? It's been a really tough market, right? So tough times are gonna separate the professionals from the dabblers in real estate. 90% of agents in our industry have not needed to ask for a price reduction in their career. 90%. I've asked for price reductions. It's not fun. So if you don't know how to do it, start scripting it and start being ready. And I wouldn't call it a price reduction. I'd call it a price improvement. It sounds better and feels better. In the end, guys, fewer agents are going to remain standing. And the agents that make it, we're going to have less competition. Remember, people buy and sell a home no matter how hot or cold the market is. Be prepared, and you'll emerge from tough times with the ultimate tailwind behind you. Your mindset is your biggest weapon. The worst that happens to you can be the best thing for you if you don't let it get the best of you. That's from an unknown author. I didn't make that up. All right, guys, keep learning, right? And you're on this class, and you're probably going to, right? Slow times gives you an opportunity to take more classes that'll boost your skill set, right? Take classes on social media, enroll in public speaking if you're not good at it, right? Learn about commercial real estate, right? Or short sales, whatever that is. I learned about short sales and foreclosures right now, right? Don't stop sharpening your skills, right? Script practice every day. Be a student of the market. Know what's going on. Know the numbers, right? So be ready as people come to you so that you can be prepared to pre-qualify for motivation, price ahead of the market to avoid chasing it, and you can always secure price reductions when you need to, right? I love this one. This is from Abraham Lincoln. If I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 6 hours sharpening my axe, right? I mean, why chop for 8 hours, sharpen for 6 and chop for 2, right? I know that you guys are on this webinar, so I know you guys are into learning. You guys, there's 6 core things that we have to do in our business, right? The first is lead generation, right? We have to lead generate and capture and convert. So anyone can make an internet lead. It's so easy, guys. You spend a little bit of money and internet lead happens, right? You need a system to cultivate it so you convert it. I use Boomtown. It has a ton of automation. It has a great follow-up system, and it has analytics that help me not let an active lead fall through the cracks, right? So make sure that you can present to buyers and sellers and get agreements. What I mean by that is get in front of them, right? If you're not talking to them on the phone, you're not going to be in front of them. So I believe in action benefit. So if a seller says it's too early to meet, I say, hey, well, why don't we go ahead and get together now so I can talk to you about ways to improve your home on a budget. So when you're ready to sell, you sell it for top dollar. That's the benefit to meeting with me now, right? When a buyer says it's too early to meet, I say, hey, buyer, I get it. And I know it feels a little early. Other people that I met with felt that it was early too. However, what we found by getting together early, we get a game plan in place so that you're ready when it's time to buy the house, right? Action benefit, right? Show buyers and market to sellers. What I mean by that is get the buyers into the house. That's when they fall in love. And market your listings so A, you can sell the house, and B, you get more buyers. You need to be writing and negotiating offers. You need a good, solid offer. If you don't know how to write one, learn how. I've gotten many times where I'm not the best offer in terms of price, but they took my offer because it was the best written and they knew it could get to the end. Coordinate to sale. You guys, I hate details. I hate paperwork. Have a good transaction coordinator. Don't spend your time on that. Your best time is to be spent generating more business, not doing paperwork. Manage your money, guys. Like I said, focus on cutting expenses, maintaining profit. Read the book Profit First. It's phenomenal. Now, steps to talent shift, right? So what I mean by that is you got to sit down with your people and let them know what's going on with the business. Like if they all think it's hunky-dory, you got to tell them the truth about the situation and where you see it going. Have these conversations, right? Visit with the different people on your team to see if they're willing to do what it takes. They have to understand that the market's going to change and they might have to work harder, right? Realign your job descriptions. Make sure people understand what their actual roles are. I say that there's 5 real estate activities that we should be doing every day. That's lead generation, lead follow-up. It's practice. It's writing and negotiating offers, and it's setting and going on appointments. That's all my agents should do. Those are the 5 things they should do, right? And so make sure they're darn well aware of what they're supposed to do, right? You need to set goals and measure them, right? Track your numbers every day. Know where you're at. Know how you can improve, right? And then you want a training schedule so people can get trained and get better at what they're doing, right? You also want to meet weekly with them, right? Check in, see where they're at, see how you can help them. Celebrate the small victories as well as the big ones, guys. Talking to 15 people about real estate a day, that is a victory. That's a big one, right? So make sure you celebrate the small ones. And then when the market shifts, you got to be able to be more than just a salesperson, right? We have to be the local authority on real estate, right? We have to really know what's going on so we talk about it at a high level. here's a great Thomas Edison one. Opportunity is missed by people dressed in overalls, opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. I don't know about you guys, I'm lazy, I hate working, but darn it, we have to. And then I'm gonna leave you all with this one. It's Gary Keller. And it's success never comes to the chosen few, but the few that choose, guys. It's a choice. What we end up doing and how we end up going through this market, it's our choice. So you can be a victim and say, oh, the market's awful, no one can sell a house. Or you can say, the market is what it is, and I'm gonna kick ass. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I'm gonna be teaching a class every Wednesday, the first of the month at noon. The topics will change, but I'll try to keep them as timely as this one. If you ever wanna reach out to me, you're super welcome to. I'd love to have more interaction with you. Again, my name is Will Story. Have an awesome, awesome day. Hey, Rana, you on there?